The Chinese envoy to Nepal, Chen Song's recent remarks on Nepal's relations with India have courted controversy. During a recent program in the capital, Envoy Song had spoken in line with Nepal's relation with India being a double-edged sword. The Indian embassy has reportedly taken up the case with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. However, top officials are clueless about how to respond to the case. Experts have meanwhile termed the Chinese envoy's remarks as a violation of diplomatic norms. Good evening, I'm Chitrakar and these are the headlines of the hour. The decision on Koshi Chief Minister Uddhav Thapa awaited as hearing in the case concludes. Supreme Court to announce its verdict any moment now. Just over 4 million households in Nepal affiliated to agriculture, 68% of agricultural produce used for personal consumption. Rising global tensions and the ongoing Myanmar crisis takes center stage at the ASEAN summit that concludes in Jakarta today. And world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz storms into the semi-final of the US Open, sets up last four clash against world number 3 Daniil Medvedev. The defense on behalf of the writ petitioner against Koshi Province Chief Minister Uddhav Thapa at the Supreme Court has concluded today. A verdict is set to be issued anytime now following the conclusion of the argument on behalf of the writ petitioner by the full bench of Supreme Court Justices Sapna Pradhan Malla, Kumar Chural and Nahakul Subedi. Final defense on behalf of the writ petitioner against the floor test of Koshi Province Chief Minister Uddhav Thapa was held today. Senior Attorney Tika Ram Bhattrai, Surendra Bhandari and former Attorney General Keshav Badal had pleaded their case on behalf of the writ petitioner. Koshi Province Parliamentary Party leader Hikmat Kumar Karki had filed a writ against the vote of confidence taken by the province chief minister, saying that the vote cast by the province assembly speaker was unconstitutional. The video of the voting process, which had been disputed after Speaker Israel Mansouri voted during the verification after the conclusion of the process, was viewed at the court. Prior to this, Supreme Court Justice Ishwar Prasad Khatiwada had issued an interim order in the name of Koshi Province Chief Minister, directing not to make any long-term decisions. At today's session of the House of Representatives, parliamentarians have demanded an investigation into the recent attack on Joint Deputy General Secretary of Nepali Congress, Mahendra Yadav, and the death of a minor in Kantipur Hospital due to lack of medical attention at the emergency ward. They urged the government's seriousness in the recent developments. Speaking during the emergency hour, Nepali Congress leader Gagan Thapa said the Home Minister and Prime Minister should take responsibility for an attack on a leader in broad daylight and raised question on the death of a child at a hospital. Whip of CPN-UML has demanded an answer from the Minister for Health over the death of the child who was brought from Makwanpur for treatment, and have demanded actions and compensations for the victim. Minister for Foreign Affairs NP Saud has said the ministry could not find the record of the then government's correspondence with China regarding the updated political and administrative map of Nepal that includes the Kalapani, Lipu Lake and Limpiathura region. Minister Saud informed the Parliament's International Relations Committee meeting held today that the official record of correspondence informing China about the map that was unanimously ratified by the Parliament in June 2020 could not be found. In response, lawmakers questioned the lack of seriousness of the government towards handling of such a sensitive issue. In another context, Minister Saud informed that the government was still finalizing the agendas of Premier Dahal's upcoming China visit, adding that the government had been consulting various secretaries, former foreign ministers and ambassadors in this regard. At the meeting, lawmakers protested the comments by Chinese ambassador on the recent map, saying that all ambassadors had to be informed of Nepal's foreign policy. Lawmakers also urged the foreign minister to find out the reason behind the failure to inform China of the updated map and furnish an answer. Regarding the Prime Minister's China visit, they have also suggested including the issue of border dispute, reopening border and the implementation of previous agreements in the agenda. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal is visiting China on the 23rd of September later this month. Detention hearing of those arrested in connection with the Lalita Niwas land scam continued today as well. Law practitioners representing 5 of the alleged culprits had in fact presented their argument till Tuesday this week, and the hearing for remaining 13 defendants is ongoing. The Central Investigation Bureau of Nepal Police has arrested 18 individuals in the scam, where more than 143 ropani of government land in Balwatar's Lalita Niwas was illegally transferred to private individuals. The list of defendants comprises 310 individuals. Time now for our segment, Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question: what do you term the government preparation to allow having wild animals as pets? The options are A, effort for conservation, B, risks of abuse, and C, abuse of animal rights. Voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. The government has made preparation to provide HPV vaccination against genital warts and cervical cancer in all 7 provinces from 13th of September next week. The government has made preparation to begin the inoculation drive targeting girls of 14 years of age. The Department of Health Services has said that despite its plan of distributing vaccines to girls in the age group 10 to 14 years, the authority will provide the vaccines to girls in the 14 years age group due to lack of sufficient vaccines. The government has claimed that the vaccine is 95% effective. The government has procured 20,000 HPV vaccines at a cost of 9 million rupees from China 2 months ago. The government has geared up to conduct the first phase of inoculation drive for 3 to 4 days after distributing them to each province. According to the department, 9,500 teenage girls will be inoculated in the first phase, and the second dose will be provided within 6 months. Transport Management Service Office Thankuta has generated 140,625,000 rupees in revenue in the past 3 fiscal years. The revenue has increased in the office, which was set up 4 years ago to facilitate the service seekers of the hilly districts of Koshi following the rise in the number of registration of vehicles, distribution of licenses and vehicle tests. The office has registered 116 new routes in 3 years and has conducted 282 renewals in the period of 3 years. Despite its establishment 4 years ago, the office began training driving skills and issuing driving licenses only a year and a half ago. The structure constructed last year at the source area of the National Pride Project, Melamchi drinking water, has been buried by flood. The structures that had been buried last year by the Gegran that came with flood in the surrounding area of the Melamchi Project, which had been excavated by spending a huge amount, and 1 and 9 number gates among other previously constructed structures have been buried by flood again. The flood in Melamchi River that occurred in the second week of the Nepali month of Shravan was said to have caused massive damage to the headwork of the project. Preparations had been made to resume the flow of Melamchi drinking water to Kathmandu Valley. However, the flood has pushed back the plan. The headwork diversion tunnel and Ambathan audit tunnel have been buried by Gegran. The local representatives have said that identification of the particular damages caused has been challenging due to difficulty in reaching the source area of the project. The workers of the project have been unable to reach the headwork as the flood has swept away roads. The Melamchi drinking water project has become uncertain due to flood each year. According to the National Agricultural Census 2078, 4,130,000 households are involved in agriculture sector. This is 62% of the total households in the country. Currently, members of 4.1 million households have been farming in 18,000 hectares of land in the country. According to the Agricultural Census 2068, 71%, which is 3,831,000 households, used to cultivate in 2,525,000 hectares of land. 68% of those involved in agriculture utilized their agricultural produce for household purpose, while 1.1% cultivate for commercial purpose. 96% of the farmers are involved in cultivation of various crops, while 3.2% are livestock farmers. The agricultural census shows that irrigation facilities have been accessible to 1,209,000 hectares of land, which is 54.5% of the total arable land. Administrative works have been affected in various government entities of Madhya Pradesh amid lack of sufficient staff. Workers at the Chief Attorney's Office in Madhya Pradesh have been affected as only 4 officials have been appointed despite the allocation of 11 quotas. Works of formation of the province's laws, its implementation and legal assistance, among others, have been lackluster as only 1 attorney has been employed despite the requirement of 4. The Public Service Commission of the province that was formed to ensure appointment of the required staff itself has not been given a full shape. Despite the quota for 27 officials, including secretary only, 7 officials have been providing services. Service delivery has been affected at the Ministry for Agriculture, Forest, Education and Health, among others as well. The Chief Attorney's Office as well as 6 ministries have relied on their secretaries. There is a quota for 3,052 government employees in Madhya Pradesh. However, more than 1,050 posts have remained vacant. Time now for international update. Rising global tensions and the ongoing Myanmar crisis took focus at the East Asia Summit during the last day of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations ASEAN Summit in Jakarta. Speaking at the opening of the East Asia Forum, Indonesian President Joko Widodo urged fellow leaders to diffuse tensions and not create new conflicts or wars. Bangladesh President Muhammad Shahabuddin, who was also present in the meeting, called the international community to find a durable solution to the conflict in Myanmar, which has driven hundreds of thousands of Rohingya refugees to his country. Shahabuddin also said delays to repatriation of refugees and a shortage of humanitarian support could put the entire region at risk. In a statement, ASEAN Chair Indonesia said regional leaders expressed grave concern over a lack of substantial progress on their 5-point peace plan for Myanmar. Torkham, the main border crossing between Afghanistan and Pakistan, was closed as security forces from both countries exchanged fire, according to Pakistani security sources. Local residents reported the sound of gunfire by the Torkham crossing and said people around the busy border area near the Khyber Pass fled once the firing started. Security officials from the area said Taliban and Pakistani forces had exchanged fire, but there had not yet been any casualties. The crossing has been closed several times in recent years, including in February when thousands of trucks laden with goods were stranded on each side of the border for days. The boss of Japan's biggest pop talent agency has resigned after finally admitting the sexual abuse committed by its late founder, Johnny Kitagawa. Julie Fujishima resigned from Johnny and Associates today during a public apology to her uncle's victim. Her departure comes a week after investigators found Kitagawa extensively abused young idols at his pop agency over a 6-decade career. A BBC documentary this year about the abuse led more victims to come forward. Johnny Kitagawa died in 2019, having always denied wrongdoing. He never faced charges. Earlier today, his niece and outgoing chief executive, Mrs. Fujishima, acknowledged his abuse for the first time. Kitagawa was arguably the most influential figure in Japan's entertainment industry. His agency has held a near monopoly on Japanese boy bands for decades. Several victims told the BBC's documentary Predator, the secret scandal of J-pop. They thought their careers would be harmed if they did not comply with Kitagawa's sexual demands. Rumors and some media reports of his abuse had been known for years, but no concrete action was taken. For decades, most mainstream Japanese media also did not cover the allegations, prompting accusations of an industry cover-up. Then in March, the BBC investigation detailing Kitagawa's abuse was aired, sparking discussion across Japan and calls for a full investigation. Fujishima was named as her successor, Noriyuki Higashiyama, a household television name in Japan. The 56-year-old was also one of the first talents recruited by Johnny and Associates. Higashiyama said he had never been a victim of Kitagawa's abuse, but had been aware of the rumors. Climate scientists have reiterated that the past cannot be undone. Climate change is happening and the planet will get hotter, storms stronger, rainfall more intense. The EU said this week that last month was the hottest August on record globally, the third straight month in a row to set such a record following the hottest ever June and July. The 3-month period from June through August surpassed previous records by a large margin. Scientists say much of the dramatic change in weather is already locked in due to historic global warming. However, worst-case scenarios are still avoidable if more action is taken urgently to reduce greenhouse emissions. Before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. The decision on Koshi Chief Minister Uddhav Thapa awaited as hearing in the case concludes. Supreme Court to announce its verdict any moment now. Just over 4 million households in Nepal affiliated to agriculture, 68% of agricultural produce used for personal consumption. Rising global tensions and the ongoing Myanmar crisis take center stage at the ASEAN summit that concludes in Jakarta today. And world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz storms into the semi-final of the US Open, sets up last 4 clash against world number 3 Daniel Medvedev. That's all for the moment. Our next English bulletin will be at 10:30 tonight. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.